Anyway, the monster time.
That's how we start the episode. It's monster time!
It's monster time.
It's time to draw.
You play a card onto the field, and I think I scream into camera.
I play Dank Magician.
Yep. Anyway.
Yep.
That's...
Yep.
Well, all that's staying in.
No, it's not. So...
Just you wait.
Norman is travelling through an environment he's been in before. He's travelling through that jungle again.
Ooh.
And as he's heading through it, he eventually comes towards more of a clearing, more like a boneyard with the bones of several large creatures around. That's when he hears the stomp, the ripple in the puddle, and he sees a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
The T-Rex!
The D&D T-Rex.
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
You said you wanted something big.
Yeah, something big, something intimidating. Should I do a big YouTube intro? I can't even do it. I can't even get into the. Hey guys, welcome to Challenge Raiders.
Hey guys, welcome to Challenge Raiders, where the points don't matter.
Smash that mic button. This is a train wreck of an episode
I can't do it
already.
Shut up. I'm gonna do it. Hey guys, welcome to Challenge Raiders. This is a D&D show where we talk about a monster and give it a rating out of 20. I'm Theo, and I draw a monster. Hey.
And I'm Neil, social media manager.
I'm Sam.
Boo!
Boo!
Boo! Stop trying.
Oh no.
Get in on the bit. Anyway, I apologise. It's Challenge Raiders. We talk about monster. I draw it. 5e. If you're still watching, well done. Hey, Theo, you're editing this. There's something on the screen now, I hope. There better be. Okay, the T-Rex. I know a couple things about the D&D T-Rex because I know one very specific hilarious thing about it, which I'd like to talk about first because it's going to influence the layout somewhat. So Neil, I think you know which bit I mean. So
I think you're talking about the fact that it can multi-attack.
It's multi-attack. It has a very special kind of multi-attack, the T-Rex.
Its multi-attack is it can make one attack with its bite and one attack with its tail, but it can't hit the same target.
Yeah.
So if you're being a real DM metagamer, your T-Rex is like ultimately positioning itself for combat.
It's like spinning around, doing martial arts, trying to whip around, biting. It's very funny to me. Just the idea of it. Doing some sort of acrobatics in some way, shape, or form is funny to me. Anyway,
you know, it means that D&D can also teach us because we didn't know T-Rexes existed before Dungeons and Dragons, obviously.
No.
Gary Gygax came up with the T-Rex.
Yeah.
Turns out it was true.
And then God put them there to prove that D&D is evil.
A nun dug up the first dinosaur.
Anyway, we're in a silly mood.
In real though, D&D dinosaurs. D&D has a bunch of dinosaurs statted in there under the section titled Dinosaurs.
Yeah, they're just... Are they their own type?
Well, no, they're beasts.
Okay, they're beasts. So you couldn't make a ranger whose special enemy type is dinosaur.
I bet you could. But
Dinosaur Hunter. Well, that's the Monster Hunter class, isn't it?
What dinosaurs are great for is exactly what we're talking about of, filling that mystical kind of island of the Lost, that...
Yeah, Lost Worlds storylines.
Like a Lost World storyline where you go to an island and then there's giant lizards around. Dinosaurs are just as fantasy as a lot of things if you think about it.
Oh yeah, dinosaurs are real-life dragons.
Yeah.
I find it very cool that dinosaurs are in D&D. The immediate reaction is, that's very funny. And then you're like, actually, that's awesome.
Yeah. And another great thing is that because they're all statted and they have challenge ratings and they're beasts, things like polymorph and
I was literally thinking you can polymorph, can't you?
Yeah.
Like, polymorph T-Rex is like a pretty popular...
Yeah.
You've got to find one first, though. You've got to go look at one.
Polymorphing or wild shaping as a druid or something into a dinosaur is great. Turning into a triceratops.
But yeah, obviously, the T-Rex is... Thank you, Jurassic Park. I think it's the most famous dinosaur.
Yeah, I'd say so.
It probably. I guess maybe things like Velociraptor, Triceratops, that sort of things are also contenders, but...
That's the A-tier cast.
Exactly.
Maybe a Stegosaurus in there as well.
Yeah, I believe I did see something about that a long time ago, about how, Jurassic Park did make T-Rexes popular, and of course all those movies back in the 60s.
Oh,
and
yeah,
70s.
your Harryhausen T-Rex claymations.
Of Harryhausen T-Rexes fighting cowboys.
Valley of the Gwangi.
Valley of the Gwangi.
That's one I've got downstairs. That's one of my dad's.
Don't worry, audience. I have no idea what they're talking about
Cowboys
as well.
fighting T-Rexes.
There was a weird subgenre of movies in, I guess, like the 60s it might have been, I'm not sure when, to have claymation dinosaurs and cowboys. Like, that was a genre. Not a huge genre. There's probably only like 2 or 3 movies in that, but it was a thing. Anyway.
Probably the same as how when Bugs Life came out, Ants came out at the same time, and it's like, how can both of you make a movie about ants? Like,
well, corporate espionage.
Exactly.
But anyway, this is actually interesting because this is the first time Harryhausen has been mentioned.
yeah.
And I think he'll probably come up again if we ever get around to doing Skeleton Warrior. But you know, hey, I've got a lot of respect for the Ray Harryhausen monster design world where everything was one colour because it was made out of plasticine, so all the dinosaurs were like blue for some reason. Anyway, you will notice as well that I'm giving this T-Rex feathers because if you are one of those people who thinks that feathered dinosaurs aren't cool, then go away. But also, it's a fact.
Well, T-Rexes were like one of those amazing facts about T-Rexes. Just as we're talking about T-Rexes, not really about D&D right now.
We'll get onto that.
But one of the great facts about T-Rexes is that they didn't live alongside most of the rest of the dinosaurs you think about when you think about dinosaurs.
Yeah, they were much later.
Yeah, they're late. They're Cretaceous period, which is the final era of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Whereas like all those big like sauropods, like Diplodocus and things, they're
much earlier.
They're all Jurassic. It's one of those things where like you can't even like imagine that they didn't exist at the same time.
Yeah, it's not even that they didn't exist at the same time. It's that there were like hundreds and thousands of years between these
millions
of years. Yeah. Our puny human minds can barely comprehend it. Time stretches out.
I can barely comprehend a week.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, yeah, we were like, oh, it's been a week since we last recorded. Jesus!
I feel that dinosaurs play into that whole island of the one T thing we went talking about, you know?
Yeah.
This jungle environment that's so deep no one's mapped it. And there's strange creatures that nobody could really comprehend before, and
they inhabit like the Terra Nullis kind of.
Yeah.
I'm kind of imagining having like a Yonti Empire and having like a T-Rex as the what's the Star Wars monster? The Rancor in the pit.
Oh, they got one. They have one chained up as and they sacrifice to it and stuff.
Literally just like gladiatorial combat for their amusement. Chuck a bunch of prisoners in against a T-Rex. I will say this is one of those ones where this ain't gonna be accurate. I mean, it's not come up, but I'm not good at drawing like real animals, so this is a cartoon dinosaur, and that's fine. I don't remember what T-Rexes look like. That head is a big box with a mouth.
That's very good though. I'm liking
that's fine.
I'm getting kind of evil Denver vibes.
Yes.
Sam.
Yes.
Sam, do you wanna guess how fast a T-Rex is?
Ooh. I am going to say 40 feet.
50.
Ooh, okay.
That's a big... And the thing is, like, in D&D, there's not a lot of things... Like, it's like 30 for most things. And then there's usually, like, a big jump to, like, 80. If it has, like, a fly speed.
Yeah, the thing that's flying, generally.
Yeah. I feel there's not a lot of stuff that's, like...
Running
50.
at 50.
Yeah, maybe a few 40s out there, but...
Guys, I mean, it's just leaning itself to must go faster.
Yeah.
You know, like situation party, because these things are tough as hell.
Yeah, what's that actual like in-game challenge rating?
Challenge rating 8.
8's pretty beefy for like a beast. For something that's just a beast classification. There's not a lot of those in the game. I feel
it's hit points and power. That's all it is. Like
exactly.
It's not, apart from its, jiu-jitsu tail techniques.
Yeah, I mean, it's very funny.
So
I mean, I know what the point of that move is, but like, there's a situation where it looks very silly, which is I find very funny. Anyway.
So the T-Rex 13 AC, it's natural armor, it's scaly. That makes sense. 136 hit points, which is a pretty beefy.
Mouthful.
It's not loads, but it's not nothing.
For around, I mean, an 8th level party would burn through.
I would throw this at challenge rating 5.
Yeah. This would be a really good, like, boss for, like, a low party, or, like, part of a bigger encounter. Like this jumping into, I think this is going off topic a little bit or interrupting a little bit, but I did run a T-Rex against you, Neil, in a dream episode. It was just two of you, and I use it where it just jumped in the middle of a different encounter or something. I can't remember exactly.
It jumped in while we were in the middle of exploration segment.
That's right. It was suddenly there. Yeah, that was right.
And it's great for that predator element. It could because it could be 50 feet away, it could be pretty far away, and then get right at you.
Yeah, then one turn it's here now, and also
it could double move 100 foot.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty big. Well, any other remarkable stats?
25 strength.
Ooh, that's big. That's actually
very strong.
It can outpower a dragon.
Yeah, I was about to say, because there's a lot of the really high chance rating stuff. It caps out to 23, 24 at most, but and there's a few exceptions which are 30, but not a lot of stuff at that challenge rating will have 25.
The 25 is purely its mouth, its jaws just grabbing you.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Is what that's representing.
I can't remember the estimated tonnage of a jaw biting. The T-Rex
yeah, that's going to be quite high in it.
Is a very scary amount, crushing cars. Sort of
I guess we should talk about its bite and how you don't want to get bitten by a T-Rex.
Yeah, I remember it's got a few things.
Melee weapon to hit plus 10. Has
Plus
10 foot reach,
big.
so technically can get you from 60 foot away.
Oh, yeah. Because it's so big, reach.
Yeah.
10 foot reach.
4d12 plus 7.
40-12! That's big!
If the target is medium or smaller, it is grappled, DC 17. Until the grapple ends, the target is restrained and the Tyrannosaurus can't bite another target. It grabs you and picks you up and starts thrashing you around.
And then starts waving its tail around and hitting your mates while it's got you in its mouth. It's really good. But yeah, it bites you and then it just eats you. It doesn't it doesn't actually have swallow.
I don't think it's big enough. No, because a fantasy swallow a guy whole stance.
Yeah.
Is not what a T-Rex we could really imagine it doing. Even though I think if a T-Rex was a fake animal, it would.
Yeah. If T-Rexes, if they had made up the T-Rex, then they would be why don't we just make a dragon that didn't have a breath and couldn't fly? But then they'd also go, we should give this thing swallow. Because then it's just a mini Tarrasque, which is what we're all thinking, but no one said it yet.
It's so in many ways it's less cool, but also so much cooler because it's
It's
T-Rex
cooler because it's
showing up.
real. For one thing, it's real. It's a T-Rex. You don't have to go when you go to a party and then there's a T-Rex. That's what? Christ! If you go there's a Tarrasque, then either they don't know what that is and they go, who? Or they know what it is and they go, away. But if you go there's a T-Rex, they go, holy crumb. Especially because I think T-Rex is one of those monsters that you could try and imply loads, but I don't think people would guess T-Rex. If you there's big lizard prints in this jungle, then people would be oh, maybe it's lizard men, maybe it's a Tarrasque if it's big, oh geez, we need to avoid that. But I don't think people would think, oh, there's T-Rexes here. Maybe you would.
And then they see the water ripples.
yeah, obviously you gotta go for those. Can't not have that. Right.
And it could be a great hiding encounter. I'm thinking that campaign idea we had of escaping the Yuan-Ti temple.
I love that camp. I might want to do that sometime as a 4-session one-off thing. I think that'd be really fun.
I think that potentially escaping through the boneyard, the hunting grounds.
Yeah.
And not wanting to fight a T-Rex that's made this place its lair, its domain, its house.
Yeah.
And having to get through it.
Yeah.
Could be a very fun encounter. And then if they do have to fight it, you've got to try and get away, be smart or something like that. Disguise your scent. It could be very fun.
Okay. You might have noticed what I'm doing by now, by the way.
I'm very in.
That's not big enough. I need to make this bigger. Hang on. Norman's not got... He's missing a bit of an arm right now. So he's got a friend to come in and help him out. Maybe it'll just be now Norman is a Resident Evil monster.
Yeah. Bit of a regenerator. He's becoming Punished Norman.
Clearly right now, he's got his stuff's been ripped up a bit. He's been nibbled on by his dinosaur.
It's the fight back.
Exactly.
But yeah, T-Rex picking a guy up, grappling him, and maybe trying to take him away while it's swatting you with his tail.
Yeah. Because of course there is the fact that they reckon these days T-Rexes were probably not so much hunters but more scavengers, but just scavengers that you just couldn't fight. So the idea of him just of a T-Rex like, picking up what is to them very easy small prey and then just going, "That's me done," and then just like running off at 50-foot movement. It's like, oh,
what prey animal chases after the giant T-Rex trying to get their friend back? No one does that.
But what
you just accept it. You accept it. That's it. It's gone.
But this is the thing, because we mentioned this a little bit when we were talking about the owlbear, because it's like an animal, so it will behave like an animal. But this is also just an animal and will behave as an animal. So if it's looking
powerful animal,
but it's powerful. So if it is looking for food, there is nothing against it. Just like taking a guy and going, right, bye, I'm off. I'm taking the spectrum of my baby T-Rexes, and we're just gonna eat them.
Yeah, and then every turn, as it's running further away, it could be a great encounter of the guy trying to break out, DC-17. Yes. Say he does manage to get out, then the T-Rex stops, starts fighting again, the party catches up.
Or maybe he has to like try and sneak away or something.
It could be a very dynamic fight of the T-Rex moving around, swatting with its tail, grabbing people.
And there's of course, you know, you could be given a Monster Hunter-esque task to go hunt one of these. And when it gets to half health, it's probably going to try and run away. If not, run away quicker.
Anjanath, you know?
Yeah, you could definitely do things like that. Like, you know, once he's broken free, what he's trying to... Instead of, like, it being a fight, it's more like a skill encounter or something where he's trying to do things to, like, not get caught again.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Like, you know, trying to hide in foliage or whatever. And, also, if you're hunting one, like, you know, you're going to set up some traps. Are you going to sit there and dig, like, loads of big, like, you know, 20-foot pits?
They're going to walk this guy with a little rope.
You're going to hit him with a big log.
You're going to try and throw a net on him.
These are all great ideas, of course. I think
that DC 10 net when it breaks through.
And imagine the size of the feathers. Like some crazy wanty headdress made of T-Rex feathers.
Well, the wanty are very big as well, right? So they could have like huge like great bows with quilled with them. That could be very interesting.
Oh, that would look so cool.
Yeah, but yeah, they are huge, aren't they?
They are huge, not gargantuan, but huge, which is a very small subset of creatures.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think we've done anything that's huge. I don't think.
I don't think so. It's like giants. Most
giants are huge, aren't they?
Yeah. Because of course the T-Rex, if you go look at a skeleton, Natural History Museum, or I think every place in the world that calls itself the Natural History Museum has a T-Rex skeleton,
or a copy of a T-Rex.
Or a copy, yeah. But like you go and look at them, and they're big, but they're not like colossal. They're just very big and bigger than anything that's like alive now.
They're impressive for something that existed actually and isn't fake.
Like, it's not like it's like looking at a bus. It's not like looking at a skyscraper.
It's not like a whale, for example. Like when you go into like again like Natural History Museum, and there's like the blue whale like thing set up above like this huge room. And you're like, this thing is ginormous.
And I mean, I have two words for you that just came to mind as we said it was huge and giants are huge. Giant Ranger.
Oh yeah.
With a T-Rex Beastmaster companion.
That'd be very cool.
I love that.
Oh, I'm gonna put the picture the token I made for the T-Rex very hastily once of Big Bird as a T-Rex. He's gonna go on screen because I just remembered I made that. And
that's pretty wonderful.
I found that very funny.
Do we want to put numbers on this, or is there anything else you'd like to bring up?
I will say, like, uses wise, there's not loads because it's the T-Rex. It's one of those ones where like it does what it is pretty well, but like it's only applicable to a couple of things really.
Before we started recording, we were talking about how some of our ratings are like incredibly positive ratings, and some of them are a bit more like, we're a bit cooler on them. This is what they deserve. Like, we can see they're useful. I think the T-Rex is going to be a bit of a lower rating, but it's going to be like we love this thing. Rating.
This is one of those ones where it's like, if you use it, you'll enjoy it and people will remember it, but like, you're probably going to have to like try relatively hard to actually fit it in. You know, you can't put this in every campaign. It's not like Vampire, which does its one thing very well, but then also you can put a vampire in pretty much any campaign and you can make it work.
If there's humans in the campaign, or not humans, or civilization, there can be vampires.
Yeah, we're soft talking about dinosaur here, really. It's like...
Yeah, because if you can't really separate that conversation because what it comes down to is, like, we're talking about how to use dinosaurs as creatures in the setting, because, like, there's no, like, dinosaur which is, like, drastically different because they're all just real animals. It's like how cow and donkey would be similarly used in a campaign if we were to bother talking about them. I think it works really well for, like, jungle stuff, as you're saying, and anything that's, like, if you have, like, a really hot setting, as in, like, physically, like, temperature-wise, it's very hot, you could probably put dinosaurs in it, because I think it'd feel weird to have, like, you know, like, oh, we're in the frozen north, and then there's a T-Rex. Like, obviously, that wouldn't feel right to do. Unless it's, like, I guess, maybe it gets, like, thawed out, and it's gonna die. That'd be unpleasant, though. That'd be sad. I guess maybe you could try and use it in a setting where, like, it's been taken out of its, like, natural...
it gets loose in the city.
I mean, yeah,
people love that trope of a T-Rex loose in a city.
That's possible, or, like,
everyone loves a bit of mini kaiju action.
I'm thinking as well, like, it's not really the monster, but you could make, like, a revenant version of it, an undead T-Rex, and have that in a museum. Why not?
There's no reason you couldn't have an undead T-Rex.
Yeah, it's not actually that hard to make undead versions of monsters. You just give them resistance to pretty much every status effect and put the word undead on the character sheet somewhere. If you're going to use dinosaurs, you're going to use the T-Rex. The only other one that you would, like, definitely be thinking of using is probably, like, the Velociraptor, which is also in there. And I think, like...
Velociraptors are tiny in there.
Yeah, of course. Like they
are real, yeah.
Yeah. In terms of numbers, it is fun. It has its fun jaw stuff. That's pretty cool. The grabbing and the movement is fun because, again, having something that's faster than the party's likely to be is always intimidating for a party. When like
you can't just run away.
Yeah, because most things have, like, the movement 30 or whatever it is. Like, most, like, characters and a lot of monsters do as well. So when something moves, like, significantly more than that, then that's automatically like, oh Christ, like, that's scary because it's unexpected potentially. Even if, like, if you think about it, obviously it'll be faster. It's just, at least for me, it's just never something that I think about. And it's always like, oh yeah, of course, its movement's going to be different. Yeah, again, I think it's going to be one of those ones that's memorable. So I'd probably go at least like a 13, I'd say. That's my gut feeling.
You see, I really do get it, but I would even go below 10.
I was thinking 9.
Oh.
The reason why I'm doing that is purely because of it's this one T-Rex encounter, and it's gonna be really, really cool. But I'm gonna have to shoehorn it into every campaign except the ones we talked about.
It is a fair point. If we could, yeah, okay. If you're talking about how inflexible it is to use, and also just the fact that, like, any encounter that has a T-Rex is going to be very fun, but it's only going to be one way of doing it, and you probably couldn't run a T-Rex even in a different campaign with the same people, because it would just be the same encounter.
If I was going to, like, devil's avocado here just a little bit, and and this, again, not saying that I agree with myself, because I think T-Rex is great, but I think there may be certain people or, like, parties that might find it a little jarring to just have, like, a real life dinosaur in your fantasy game. Like, I understand. Yeah. I agree with your viewpoint that we said in the video about them being basically alien anyway to us because it's such a different world they lived in. But if you're going, I feel like it could be jarring for some. If you're going from a world where you're fighting, like, you know, like hippogriffs and all that kind of stuff, and you know, and then you just go, oh, there's a dinosaur.
I think you're spot on, and that's why the setting is what makes or breaks them.
100%.
And I guess if we're talking about that, because that is a downside no matter what, because it makes it more difficult to use in a way. It is something that, like, you probably have to make sure you're thinking about, like, the tone of your campaign and, like, the setting more than you would have to worry if you're, like, if you were just using, like, every other D&D monster in the book, you wouldn't have that issue.
I think Neil hit it right. You need, like, an island for them, and it needs to be kind of, like,
separate.
Well, like, separate and, like, kind of almost foreshadowed as well, maybe.
Or so built into, like, society. Like, I can't remember the name of the setting, but there's one where, like, people ride around on, like, stegosauruses and stuff, and, like, dinosaurs are just, like, everywhere in that setting. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, you can't have... You're inside Pallet Town, and they've got cows, and you walk out into the woods, and there's a stegosaurus eating leaves. Like, you can't have that. because of it's just that it's culture shock.
Yeah, I think it can be quite jarring, but hey, I love it. But yeah, for me, like it's a hot and spicy 9. Like I think they're great, but I don't think.
Could I convince you guys to go to a 10? Because I don't think they're below.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sure.
Because I think the interesting mechanics with like the grabbing puts them above average.
Sure.
Completely agree. I think that with the grabbing and their speed and how we're talking about using them with like swatting and the running encounter is a really fun encounter.
I think if you remember to treat them like animals and not like monsters, that makes them more interesting. It's just one of those things where like this is a monster that you as a DM have to work a little harder to do, but I think is very much worth it if you can pull it off.
It's an animal that can back up being an animal.
Sure,
I think actually a 10 is works for our current ratings, as I think we gave the gelatinous cube a 10, and I think for very different reasons this deserves a 10 as well, as in it would make one very memorable encounter.
Yeah. And whereas the gelatinous cube is a mild, like, it's a 10, this is like, it's awesome. It is a 10. But like we do like it, it's very fun.
So it's a double thumbs up 10.
But I love T-Rex. T-Rex gets 2 thumbs up hot chili rating.
Extra spice.
Ooh.
Oh, that mimic arm is...
You big birded him.
He's a big bird, yeah.
You said you were gonna...
Yeah, I always follow through on my terrible promises.
Oh, the mimic arm.
Mimic arm
he's got a big purple punch arm. It's real vascular.
This is such a One Piece Island event.
Yeah,
it
really is. There's a real Giganto pistol. I kind of regretted not having it be an action pose, but that would have been real hard. And I should have done it. If you got a jungle, then you got an opportunity to make things brightly coloured. And why not have a brightly coloured dinosaur? Obviously, if you're going for like a more serious campaign, you wouldn't have a bright yellow fuzzy T-Rex.
You might not have dinosaurs at all.
Or might not have dinosaurs at all. But
you could do.
I had a thought earlier in the week, and I can't remember how the thought went.
Oh, well, that's great.
The thought went something like, dinosaurs are like immediate, easy coding for people, that it's like, that there's something undisturbed and ancient about the area you're in, right?
Yeah.
We understand that dragons are meant to be old and ancient things, but also dragons don't reel. Was what I was going to say, so I'm going to stick with dragons don't reel.
Yep, they don't reel.
Where dino big reel.
Dinos did reel, and we know it was ages ago. And we know that in real life.
I don't think we need to make any comment on that. That's perfectly succinct. Dino is old.
Dinosaurs are old, unless you've got John Hammond. We didn't talk about cloning. Is there any cloning in D&D? Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, there is a spell called clone.
Yeah. Oh, is there?
Yeah.
I guess you could have a wizard invent Jurassic.
Why not?
I'm in.
I'm in with Fantasy Jurassic Park.
John Hammond's amber staff.
Yeah, and I can imagine it being like a three episode campaign, dealing with Jurassic Park. But yeah, T-Rex, this is a cool monster. We did, I think, end up mostly talking about, like, dinosaurs in general.
But he's the king of the dinosaurs.
But he's the king of the dinosaurs, and, like, it's interesting the way that it's, like, multi-attack works, in that you have to attack 2 different creatures. If I've been running, like, a one-boss encounter who has, like, multi-attack, like, 3 attacks or something, then the temptation is to go, well, the most logical thing is to hit one guy 3 times and then they die, and then to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unpleasant for the player who just gets killed. Whereas the T-Rex forces you to spread the damage around, so everyone's feeling like, oh, I'm getting hit, but it's actually not quite so severe. I don't know. I don't know if that's like a...
No, I completely get you. When I play, I normally split up the damage between, like, targets that are next to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you've got one guy with a sword, maybe he'll make one attack on both the people who are in range, as opposed to focusing down. Which is obviously, like, more gamey, but, like... That's not what the DM's there for, is there to make things interesting.
And with the T-Rex's reach, it's kind of quite easy for him as well.
Yeah, they can really dominate a field and sort of make everyone be a bit scared.
Like, again, that Monster Hunter feeling of, like, fighting Anjanath,
That's a good shout, actually, because obviously that is a game where having multiple people is, like, a part of the game, yeah. Oh, hang on, I thought of a really good joke.
Oh, no.
If you like what you dino saw... Why don't leave a like on this video? Nah, now I'm free.
Maybe try the rest. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Try the rest.
Oh,
try the rest and subscribe.
That might be the worst one you've ever done. That's worse than Sam forgetting which word to put emphasis on in Flame Skull. We don't always do the bell. We forget to ring the bell.
We do forget to ring the bell.
But you shouldn't. There you go. Now it's done.
Oh god, leave a comment.
Oh.
The dinosaurs were wiped out by a comment.
I was literally just thinking that.
Okay.
But then I was like, but a comet doesn't get to Earth. But I don't care. Leave a comment.
If you don't like the dinosaurs, leave a comment and wipe them out.
There's gonna have to be some subtitles to make those make sense, I think.